Every empire begins its story by swearing that its money is untouchable. Every government says the promises it makes will stand forever. Yet each time history steps onto the stage, it empties those claims. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people woke up one day to find their savings melted away, their salaries hollowed out. The order they thought solid quietly stole their future. Collapse, then, is not an exception. It is part of the mechanism. The real question isn't whether systems will fail, but how you will protect yourself when they do. Because the illusion of permanence, that sweet feeling of safety, is finance's most dangerous trap. Back to the bank. We treat account balances and national currencies as if they were the firm foundation of our lives. Yet the foundation isn't money, it's trust. And trust can be withdrawn overnight. That's why history is harsh, but just as instructive. Every collapse leaves traces, clues to what protected wealth and what turned to dust. Look closely, and you'll see the survivors weren't the blind believers. Most people had believed. The first to feel doubt were the ones who made it through. Have you ever wondered what came closest to a world money in the Middle Ages? The answer is Byzantium's gold solidus. Long after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Empire put this coin at the heart of trade. European merchants trusted it. The Middle East and Asia accepted it without question. The solidus was the nearest thing that age had to a true reserve power. And here is where the problem emerged. You might say, Rome should have learned its lesson. After all, the fate of the silver denarius was still in memory. Emperors thinned the silver in the coin and eroded its value until it became a hollow plating. We've heard this story countless times. Yet centuries later, Byzantium walked the same path with gold. Purity was reduced, cheaper alloys mixed in. At first, no one grasped what was happening. Then confidence cracked. As the meaning carried by money unraveled, Mediterranean commerce became an instrument of political maneuvering. The debasement radiated outward in waves, and in the end, Byzantium's economy and the anchor that had once been its much-praised stability was lost. So, when the curtain fell, who remained on stage? Not the words on paper, nor the thunder of decrees. The merchants who quietly accumulated did. Gold and land hidden beyond the empire's reach protected their owners, while everyone else watched their money evaporate before their eyes. This is the first and oldest lesson. Governments cannot resist the temptation to dilute for long. When money is watered down, real value flees to assets that cannot be faked. But not every ruin is born from rulers toying with money. Sometimes the blow comes suddenly. The Black Death that rocked Europe in the mid-14th century was like that. Between 1347 and 1351, a large share of the population vanished. Cities emptied, villages fell apart, trade routes collapsed. Even so, the picture wasn't one-dimensional. The plague was more than a simple catastrophe. It rewrote the economy. When half the people disappeared, labor became precious. Survivors could demand higher pay. As headcounts shrank, food and land looked plentiful by comparison. Families with silver in their pockets, goods to sell, or simply the strength to work suddenly found themselves wielding unexpected influence. Land that had been worth a fortune yesterday could now be bought cheaply. Abandoned homes and untilled fields waited for buyers, and the market turned in their favor. If this feels familiar, it's not by accident. During COVID, supply chains faltered. Governments printed trillions to keep the machine from stopping, and inequality widened. Those with liquidity scooped up assets. The paycheck to paycheck were left behind. In the United States, housing soared, and the stock market rebounded quickly, while millions struggled with rent. The lesson is plain. Pandemics redistribute wealth. After the Black Death, those who saw scarcity as opportunity climbed upward. During COVID, those with cash grabbed real estate, equities, and businesses, while others couldn't hold on. Painful, but true. Crises reward the resilient and separate those with reserves from those without. Pandemics showed how shocks can spread in an instant and turn an economy upside down. Renaissance Florence had learned the same truth centuries earlier. Institutions deemed too big to fail could topple like a row of dominoes. In the 1340s, Florence was a financial capital ruled by dynasties like the Bardi and the Peruzzi. Loans to kings were the city's pride. The riskiest client was England's King Edward III. Crushed under the wars he waged against France, Edward stopped paying and banks collapsed one after another. Depositors were ruined, trade fell silent, and the city that boasted of its power sank into chaos. Everyone learned that day, size is not safety, and reputation is no shield. Institutions exist to earn profit, not to guarantee your survival. And when they fall, they often take your savings with them. That lesson has replayed in every age, from Florence to Lehman Brothers to Lebanon's banks. Words hold until the day they aren't kept. Most of us remember the American Civil War for speeches and the abolition of slavery. Yet behind the curtain was a brutal monetary war that remains hard to discuss even today. Both the Union and the Confederacy understood that a conflict of this scale couldn't be sustained without printing money. The North issued greenbacks, not backed by gold. The first impression was bold and patriotic. But as dollars multiplied, each bought less, and inflation dissolved confidence. The South fared even worse. Short on resources, it printed grayback paper that sent prices soaring. Paychecks became mere paper, and people carrying bags of money couldn't afford a loaf of bread. By 1865, Confederate currency was dead. What endured were not paper promises, but tangible things like land, food, and gold. For ordinary Southerners, it was devastation. For opportunists, it was a chance to scoop up real goods on the cheap. The lesson that mustn't be forgotten is clear. Your own currency can die. Protection rests not on the bills in your wallet, but on value that inflation cannot destroy. France, with its revolution, showed how quickly money can evaporate. In the 1790s, assignats, said to be backed by confiscated property, were printed rapidly. Each new series diluted the previous one. Prices sprinted while wages stood still. Farmers refused the paper and demanded goods or silver. Bread riots returned to Paris, and the revolution consumed itself. The winners were not those holding patriotic paper, but those owning what the state could not print: food, gold, property. And the lesson? When confidence breaks, savings don't shrink, they vanish. Fast forward 2 centuries, and the lesson took the stage again in Asia. In 1997, the speculative spark, lit under the Thai baht, became a regional storm. Betting that the exchange rate would hold, Thailand piled into dollar debt. When the peg snapped, it was left overnight with unpayable obligations. Capital fled. Indonesia, Malaysia, and South Korea shook in succession. Economies blew up, unemployment jumped, and the IMF arrived at the door. The heaviest burden wasn't borne by hedge funds, but by ordinary people. Savings eroded, mortgages doubled, lives were torn apart. And yet the picture is familiar. Those holding dollars or foreign assets withstood the storm better than those who trusted the local currency. As countries dependent on external debt tightened their belts, Wall Street bought on the cheap. What looked like a local collapse was, in fact, a global wealth transfer. The echo carries from Byzantium to Argentina. Borrowing in someone else's money is a death trap. In the storm, it's the debtor, not the creditor, who sinks. Now the picture is clear. Revolutionary France, Civil War America, modern Asia, the same refrain: paper money fails, debt binds. The survivors are not the ones who believe blindly in the system. They are the ones who see fragility before it breaks. And collapse isn't confined to the distant past. It happens now. Lebanon, 2019 to 2021. Banks locked their doors. Accounts were frozen. Withdrawals throttled. The currency imploded. The lira lost 90% of its value. Lifetime savings shrank to pocket money. Lines stretched long. The middle class, retirees, doctors, engineers, everyone who trusted was crushed. The hard but obvious truth: money in the bank isn't a treasure chest. It is a loan to an institution that might not return it in a crisis. The best survivors? Those diversified abroad, those who owned real assets like gold or property, or those who kept their cash outside the system. Far-fetched? It isn't. In 2008, as Americans lost homes to foreclosure, the banks that sparked the crisis were rescued. In 2020, trillions were printed to keep the machine running. Asset prices soared while wages stood still. In 2023, regional banks fell overnight as confidence evaporated, and we were reminded that the tale of too big to fail was a comfort we told ourselves until the door slammed shut. So what do you do when everything scatters? History offers no single prescription. In Byzantium, the safe harbor was gold. After the Black Death, liquidity to scoop up abandoned land under buyer's market conditions proved valuable. In Florence, the lesson was not to lean on too big to fail bankers. For the Confederacy, the solution was hard goods. In France, food and property. In Asia, the rule was avoid debt in someone else's currency. In Lebanon, getting out of the system before banks shut their doors saved lives. The templates change, the theme stays the same. Salvation comes not from blind faith in papers or institutions, but from seeing reality as it is. What remains when the illusions collapse? Here lies the paradox. Collapse is both tragedy and opportunity. For the unprepared, it's ruin. For the prepared, those with resilience, liquidity, and unprintable assets, it's a time to buy cheap. After the Black Death, peasants ended up with plenty of land. In 2008, those with cash bought homes amid the foreclosure wave. History shows that protection isn't only hunkering down, it is also positioning yourself to capture the value others are forced to abandon under pressure. Wealth is not only what you own, it is what you can produce. The baker turns out bread, the craftsman repairs tools, the farmer feeds the community, the merchant moves goods across borders. In short, producers not only survive, they rise, because in every crisis, money loses meaning, but production never does. Needs persist: to eat, to build, to trade, to live. Those who meet these needs don't stay poor for long. Real protection is not blind trust. It is the blend of real assets plus real skills plus the knowledge that dreams can break. Every crisis is a passage, from the trusting many to the prepared few, from paper promises to tangible value, from passive saving to active building. In short, the question isn't, will everything fall apart? Yes, it will. The question is this: will you cling to empty promises or join the minority who truly owns something? History may not repeat, but if you ignore it, it can erase you. If this opened a new window for you, tap the subscribe button. Because history is a map full of answers. I'm here to show you where to look.